So you've got an idea for your story, but right now it's disorganized, it's missing pieces, and you want to bring it together enough that you can start to write it. In this video, I'll walk you through the simplest outlining method ever. It works whether you're a plotter or a pantser, and it works whether you've just dreamed up your story idea yesterday or if you've been thinking about it for years. By the end of this video, you'll not only know how to make an outline, but how to refine and develop it further into a story that's impossible to put down. Let's get started with what you need to outline a novel. And when I first heard this, it totally redefined for me what story is all about. Let's start very basic. What's an outline? Your outline is the timeline of your story, right? It's your guide for what happens in your story, like a map that you can refer to make sure you stay on track. But here's what most people get wrong about story, and it makes their outlines ineffective. A story is not just a series of events happening. It's not your main character doing a bunch of important things. Story is about change. And I'll take it even further. The most important change that happens in every story is your main character changing. This is the secret many beginner authors don't know. So here is what a great outline does. It tracks the series of events that will transform your character. Your character arc is the skeleton of every outline. And once you have that, everything else easily falls into place. So let's see how to make that outline. We just need to develop two elements of your story idea, and your outline will practically write itself. First, let's talk about how the main character plays into your outline. As writers, it's a lot of fun to flesh out the details of our main character. Their personality, what they like, how they look, how they dress. But none of these details will actually build a story for us. Here's what really matters. The key to a compelling main character is their need for change. It's not a stretch to call this the whole engine of a story. Your main character's need for growth drives the story. And if this element is missing, your story may not seem to go anywhere, and readers will struggle to care about the stakes in the story. So how do we develop a main character who needs to change? The simplest way is to give your character a flaw, a want, and a need. So let's take a look at these three things next. First, the flaw, or we could call this the character's problem. The flaw is the main character's unhealthy coping habits. For example, in the novel Fight Club, the main character, let's call him Jack, he works for an unethical car company. His job is to handle recalls, but his company won't fix the defects if it's cheaper to pay out settlements to the victims, even if the defects are killing people. Now, Jack could quit, or he could blow the whistle on this company, but instead he chooses to keep his job, he buys cool stuff with his big salary, and he feels bad and hollow inside. And now he can't sleep. He's got problems. And these problems are going to spark all kinds of interesting conflict that will force the main character to find a new way to cope with his world. And as an added perk, when you make your character flawed, you make them interesting to the readers. This is because it's hard to relate to perfect people, but we naturally want to root for flawed people who are doing their best to get by in a challenging world. The second quality we need is the want, or the wrong way to fix things. The character want is the thing the character thinks will fix their problem. For example, let's stick with Fight Club. Jack wants to destroy the corporate world because it treats people like numbers on a spreadsheet. And he thinks the right way to do things is to literally blow up buildings. And so, in case it's not obvious, this character want should be the wrong way to fix things. Even if the main character gets what they want at some point in the story, it will not solve their real problems. And this brings us to the third character quality, the need, also known as the right way to fix things. The need is the idea your character needs to realize in order to really fix their life. It's the truth they've been hiding from all along. In Fight Club, Jack needs to stop trying to fix his problems by pretending they don't exist, or by blowing them to smithereens. And so by the end, he chooses to no longer depend on his alter ego Tyler Durden, and he resists the urge to blow up buildings. When you give your main character these three qualities, the flaw, the want, and the need, your character will have story potential. They need to change, so now what's going to change them? And that brings us to our second element for a great story outline. The second thing we need is a world that will force the main character to change. Many authors think of their world as an interesting set piece, as a cool sandbox full of curiosities. But this is totally missing the main purpose of a story's world. Authors who miss this will have a hard time deciding what events are important in their story. And eventually, when the novelty of the world wears off, the story will drag. Now, by all means, make your world interesting, but here's the number one purpose of the world in your story. Everything about the world should be custom built to challenge the main character's flawed way of seeing the world. Think about the world of Fight Club. The story's world is set up to make men like Jack feel desperate. He's trapped in a job where he's sort of responsible for people's deaths. He has crushing insomnia that's getting worse and worse. The overall feeling is that things can't keep going on like this. The world of Fight Club is set up to perfectly poke at Jack's flaw. He needs to stop ignoring his problems. The supporting characters are part of the world from this perspective too, and they've got the same purpose. Tyler Durden is designed to accelerate Jack down the path of fixing things the wrong way, of finding purpose through violence. And Jack's love interest Marla is designed to show Jack his true need, that even in this meaningless world, there's a messy way to find meaning in relationships. The world is intentionally related to the character's problems at every level. It's not just a set piece, it's engineered to make the main character change through conflict. This interplay of conflict is what makes story. The world stress tests your character until they have no choice but to change. And your character's struggle against the world is the only engine that can drive a plot. And these series of conflicts that happen will form the arc of your story, which is exactly the thing we're outlining. If you're wondering what to write in your story, here's the answer. Your creative planning time is now focused on this question. How can I use my world and my characters in fun and interesting ways to force my main character to change? See it all coming together? We now have all the pieces we need to make a killer outline. So let's see how, once we have these details, your outline will practically write itself. But first, if you'd like personalized help developing your main character, send me an email to arrange a one-on-one story consult. My email is in the description. Now, here's how events work. Things were one way, something happened, and now things are another way. My morning was like this, for example. I woke up groggy, I drank some coffee, and then I was loudly singing the Frozen soundtrack in the car with my daughter. If you generalize any event, you get these 3 steps of change. And likewise, if you generalize a story, you get the same thing. We even have a name for it. It's called the 3-act structure. Act 1, things were one way. Act 2, something happened. And then Act 3, now things are a different way. That's story. 3-act structure. It's as basic as you can get. You can add as many details as you want to this formula, but this is the ground truth level of how story works. And it's the one thing you need to get right as you're outlining your book. So I promised you that after we detailed the character and the world, the outline would write itself. Here it is in action. You can literally frame these acts as the 3 components of a story-worthy character. Act 1, you've got the flaw, things are broken. Act 2, you've got the want, the wrong way to fix things. And Act 3, you've got the need, the right way to fix things. So when you're thinking of what belongs in your book, See it through the lens of what act you're in and what we've already established about your character and the world they live in. So in Act 1, for instance, the focus is about the hero's flaws, and you want to use the world in fun and interesting ways to show the hero struggling in their status quo world. This is about as basic of an outline as you can get. But the wonderful thing about the 3-act structure is if you want to add even more mile markers onto your outline, it's very easy to place where they belong. For those of you who love planning your story details in advance, stay till the end where I share a video link to an extremely popular 15-beat story structure. But for this video, let's keep it simple and add 2 more beats to our 3-act structure. 2 transition points in between each act that will catapult the main character into the next act. And to help you keep track of the full story outline I'm about to share, I've created a handout with simple visuals and descriptions. Download it using the link in the description. Now, what better story than the Pixar movie Ratatouille to see our upgraded outline in action? First, we've got Act 1, The Flaw. Things are broken. In Ratatouille, Remy the rat is struggling to find a place where he belongs. He's a rat who's obsessed with cooking. He's alienated from his family, who thinks he should act like a normal rat. But he's also at odds with the human world where cooking happens, because humans and rats don't get along. So Act 1 is the first chain of events. Things were one way. And it showcases the main character with their flaws or problems and shows them stuck in their status quo world. Then, in between Act 1 and 2, stories usually have an event that is so big it forces the main character out of their status quo life. It's called a catalyst, and this particular beat, when it lands between Act 1 and Act 2, it's called the inciting incident. In Ratatouille, during the inciting incident, Remy is separated from his family during a chaotic escape from humans and washes up in Paris near Cousteau's restaurant. And now we're in Act 2. Here, Remy partners with a clumsy human named Linguini, and they secretly cook together in Cousteau's restaurant. And Remy thinks he can achieve his cooking dream by hiding his rat identity. So in Act 2, the main character's chasing the thing they think will fix their problems. But now they're in an upside-down world that challenges them every step of the way. The character has successes here, but also failures. In the case of Ratatouille, during Act 2, the kitchen staff is starting to get suspicious. Linguini wants to take credit for Ratatouille's skill, and the overarching feeling is that Remy's not going to be able to hide his rat identity forever. Then, in between Act 2 and 3, we get another catalyst that thrusts the character into the Act 3 world. This beat is called All Is Lost, and it's where the main character's problems catch up to them and they crash and burn. In Ratatouille, Remy's secret is exposed. Linguini reveals he's a rat, the kitchen staff quits, and Remy faces rejection from both humans and his family, and he hits rock bottom. At this point, Remy is even worse off than he was at the start of the story. But this low point is also where he finally realizes the thing he really needs. And finally, in Act 3, your main character fixes things the right way, according to the thing they needed all along. And so their life falls into a new, harmonious status quo. In Ratatouille, Remy stops hiding his rat identity, and he relies on both his rat family and his human friends to make a dish that wins over a famous food critic. And then he opens a restaurant where everyone knows the chef is a rat, but they're cool with it because he's so good at cooking. And this basic act structure we just went through is your guide to outlining a book. So to recap, you develop a character who needs to change, you design a world that forces the character to change, and then you divide your book into 3 parts. Act 1 for your hero's flaw, Act 2 for their want, and Act 3 for their need. This structure will guide your creative planning sessions. Basically, you want to bounce your character and your world against each other in interesting ways, using the world and the characters to challenge your character to move through these 3 steps in the character arc. Whether you're a plotter or a pantser, this outline will help you frame a story structure that your readers are going to adore. Again, if you want a worksheet to plan your own outline according to this structure, download the PDF in the description. Now, this structure is all that some people need to get started on their book. But if you really like planning out the details before you start and knowing exactly where you need to go next in the story, check out this video next where I give you a super in-depth walkthrough of a popular 15-beat story structure called Save the Cat. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Peace.